Hello, viewers. In this tutorial, we'll be discussing nonlinear inequalities. So let's define what is nonlinear inequalities. So, like we say, these are what we can say they are inequalities that involve let's say squares or higher powers. For example, if you have x squared is greater equals to 0, this is a nonlinear inequality. Or we have x squared minus x is less than 0. This is also nonlinear. Or we have x cubed plus 2x less than 5. These are all examples of nonlinear inequalities. So once the power of x is not 1, for example, if you have x plus 1 is greater than 0, we know this is linear inequalities because the highest power of x is just 1. So how do we solve linear inequalities? There are guidelines we will use. Here, the first guideline is we write the inequality in the form of what? We write the polynomial on one side, then you have your 0 on the other side. So what it means is that you have your polynomial on the left-hand side, and we can have our what? The inequalities either less than equals to, greater equals to, or greater than. Then we have 0 on the right hand side. Then the second step is to what? Is to factorize the polynomial. Then the third, we take the zeros of the polynomial, which we somehow call the critical values. Then we will draw a table, which we call the sign table. And so we'll see how that works. So let's just go with an example. So for this example, we want to solve the inequality. So we'll use the first thing we do here is to apply the principles here, this guideline. Write the polynomial in the form. So we need to write the polynomial on the left hand side, which we can just write as 28x minus 15x squared minus 12 is greater or equals to 0. But if you look at this polynomial, it's not in standard form, so we can try to write it as 15x squared plus what? 20x, then minus 20 is greater than 0. All right. So now, if you look at this, we can also try to make the coefficient of x squared to be 1 by multiplying to be maybe positive by multiplying by true by negative. So this becomes 15x squared minus 28x, and this will be what? This will be plus 12. Now this will be less than 0. Okay. Now you have less than 0, so we need to factorize. Now we come to the second part, which is to factor the polynomials. And this is just a quadratic polynomial. Yeah. So because the power is 2, then how do you factorize this? We take, this is our A, this is our C, right? So we multiply, we can use the slide and divide method. We take A, which is 15, multiply by 12. So this will be 180, right? And then the B, which is the coefficient of X, we write it as minus 28. So clearly you see that we need two factors that when you multiply, we'll get what? 180, and when we add, we'll get minus 28. So think minus what? Minus 10 and minus 18, right? Minus 10 and minus 18 should do the job. Because minus 10 times minus 18 will give us 180. and we have this is minus 28. So we need to factorize. It means we can write this as x minus 10 and what? X minus 18 less than 0. But since the coefficient of x squared is 15, then we need to divide by 15. So this becomes x minus, this will be 2 over 3, and this is, we can reduce it with 3. This will be 6 over 5 less than 0. Now, what does that mean? So the next step is for us to get the zeros of the polynomial. So we are now in step 3. All right. So up to this point, we can say this one is just step 1 because we tried to write the polynomial on one side. Then now factorizing the polynomial from here to here, we can say this is step 2, right? Then step 3 is where we take the critical values, which we call the zeros of the polynomial. So now we can say step 3, we just take the zeros of the polynomial, which will be x equals to what? 2 over 3, and x is equals to what? 6 by 5. Now the step 4 is now when we go to the table. So just follow me. How do we do this table? What we do, the table is this. You draw your number line. Now we arrange the zeros in decreasing order or in increasing order. So you see between 2 over 3 and 6 over 5, definitely 2 over 3 is the smallest. Then we have 6 by 5. So this now partition our number line into intervals. So we want to see how these functions behave, how these factors behaves in this interval. So we draw something like this. But now another important information is that we see that here there is no equal to 0. What we have is strictly less than 0. But these factors, these zeros here, will make this polynomial actually 0. But there is no equals to 0 in our inequality. So it means we have to go to the what? We have to go and open up these zeros. So we put an open circle. It means they will not be included in our solution. Now we'll put the factors here, which we had, x minus 2 over 3, and also x minus 6 by 5, right? Okay, so now we need to do the sign test. So how do we do that? All we know is that what? This, look at this. This is like minus infinity to 2 over 3, and this is like plus infinity. So we take any number, we call them test points. If you take a test point between minus infinity and 2 over 3, just take any number just to test. So you can see between minus infinity and 2 over 3, you have 0, right? If you use 0 as a test point, substitute 0 into this first factor, you're going to have a negative number. So just put it negative sign. We are not interested in the quantity, but just in the sign. Also, substitute 0 into the second factor here, we will also get a negative number. But don't forget that here, what are we doing? We are multiplying these two terms. So it's like saying negative multiplied by negative. The output will be what? Positive. So we have positive here. Now, between 2 over 3 and 6 over 5, we can take 1 as our test point. 1 is here. If you substitute 1 here, 1 minus 2 over 3 is going to be a positive number because 1 is bigger than 2 over 3. Now, if you substitute 1, 1 minus 6 over 5 is going to be negative because 1 is less than 6 over 5. So here also plus minus, here we're going to have minus. Then here as well, we can take 1, we can take 2 because 2 is greater than 6 over 5. If you substitute 2 here, 2 minus 2 over 3 is going to be plus. 2 minus 6 over 5 is still plus. So here it's still going to be plus, right? And we're almost done. Since we are interested in the part that is what's less than 0, then we go to our table, we look for where we have less than 0, and the only place where we have less than 0 is where? Is the middle here, right? Just here. So it means that our solution, the solution of this inequality, or we can say our solution set, is what? Let me write it here. Our solution set is just open 2 over 3 to what? 6 over 5. So any number you take from this interval will satisfy this inequality. All right, so we go for number 2. For example 2, you have the solution set in this interval. So we're going to follow the same procedures to answer this. And what do we do? Step 1, we what? Step 1 is that we try to write everything, the polynomial on one side. So this becomes x cubed plus what? 3x squared minus 16x minus 48. This should be less or equals to what? 0. Then we try to factorize this. Here we can do by grouping since we have 4 terms. If you look at the first 2 terms, we can take an x squared out so that we have x plus 3. This second term we can take what? 16. Also we'll have x plus 3. We have less than equals to 0. So then we can take x plus 3 as a common factor here so that we have x squared minus what? 16. This less than equals to 0. Then the second term here, we can write it as what? We can use difference of 2 squares, because this is x squared minus 4 squared, right? So this becomes x plus 3, x minus 4, and x plus 4 less than equals to 0. So now we have done 2 steps. The first step is this one, right? Because we wrote everything on one side. The second step is what we have done. We finished the second step here. We started from here, we finish here. This is step 2, because we have factorized the polynomial. Now, the third step is just to take the zeros of this polynomial. What makes the polynomial 0 is minus 3, there minus 3, 4, and minus 4. So here we are done with step 3, right? Now, step 4, now we go to the table. So how will the table look in this case? Is just exactly what we discussed. So just like we did before, we arrange the zeros in what? We arrange the zeros in decreasing order. So we start with minus 4 is the smallest, then minus 3, then 4. And we can just put a line here. So if you look at this, you realize that what? But here, something interesting is here. We have equality here. So since we have equality here, it means that these our zeros, which we sometimes call the critical values, they should be included in our solution. So we're going to have a closed circle, not an open circle, like in the previous question. So the same way, we're going to put our factors. What are the factors? Here we have 3 factors: x plus 3, x minus 4, and x plus what? Plus 4. Okay, so what is going to happen now is that we will have what type of solutions? All right, so here now we have minus infinity to minus 4, and here we have infinity. So just take a test point. Take any number between minus infinity and minus 4. We can easily take minus 5. If you put our substitute minus 5 here, minus 5 plus 3, it's a negative number. Minus 5 minus 4 is also negative. Minus 5 plus 4 is also negative. So you have the product of three negative terms. The outcome is definitely negative. Now, between minus 4 and minus 3, we can take minus 3.5. If you take minus 3.5 and substitute here, minus 3.5 plus 3 is going to be minus 0.5, so it's negative. Minus 3.5 minus 4 is definitely negative. But minus 3.5 plus 4 is a positive number, right? So you see now you have the product of two negative number and a positive number will end up being a positive number. Then we take between minus 3 and 4. Between minus 3 and 4, we can take 0 easily. If you substitute 0 into the first term, it's going to be plus. If you substitute 0 into the second term, you have negative. 0 into the third term, it's going to be also positive. So two positive term and one negative term. If you multiply these three together, you will get what? You will get negative. Then finally here we take between 4 to infinity, we can take 5. If you substitute 5 into x plus 3, it's positive. 5 into x minus 4 is still going to be what? Positive. And 5 plus 4 is positive. So this is also positive. Now, what is our solution? So for the solution, we will take the part that is what? Less than equals to 0. What does less than equals to 0 means? It means it is negative, right? Negative, but it can be 0. So it means we're going to pick the intervals where we have negative, like here, the first interval here. So it means we will pick minus infinity to minus 4, but it's going to be close, right? Yes, because minus 4 is included. Then union, since we have two intervals, we have to use union. Then now we go from minus 3 and we stop at where? At 4, also close. So these are the two intervals. And any number you take from any of this interval will satisfy this inequality. So, right, let's move to, that's it. Let's move to the next question. No, let's, so for this question, if you look at this one, this is example 3. For example 3, what is good here is that most of the steps have been completed. Look at what is step 1. If you remember, we said step 1 is to what? To write the polynomial. So step 1 is already done because everything is already on the right hand side. Even step 2 is done because the polynomial is already factorized, right? So what is just left is what? It's just from step 4, I think. No, step 3. And that is we take the zeros of this polynomial. So x is equals to 0, x is equals to 1, x is equals to 2, and x is equals to what? 3. So these are the zeros. And clearly we just need to go to the table. So here we start with, which one is the smallest? 0. So we start with 0. Then we have 1, 2, 3. Then we should have our factors. What are the factors here? Here we have, okay, let me reduce this here. 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's add the factors here. The factor we have x, we have x minus 1 squared, x minus 2 cubed, and what? X minus 3 to power 4. So if you look at this, what do we need to do? Here, all the zeros will be open because there is no equals to 0. So we just open them all up. Now, we can make life easy for ourselves because every even power, wherever we have even power, we know it's just going to be plus in all interval. Because even if it is negative, for example, x minus 1 square is going to be plus. Here as well, x minus 3 to power 4 is still going to be plus. So we just move this one, right? Then, so we are taking a test point. For example, you take minus 1. This is going to be negative, right? If we take minus 1, if you take minus 1, here will be negative. If we take minus 1 here, minus 1 minus 2 is a negative number, so this is still negative. So the result here is going to be positive, right? And here between 0 and 1, we can take half. If you take half, this will be positive. This will still be negative. So we have 3 positive, 1 negative. So this will be negative. Between 1 and 2, we can take 1.5. Take 1.5, it means x is 1.5 is a positive number. 1.5 here minus 2 is going to be what? Minus 0.5. But a negative number to an odd power still remains negative, right? Yeah, because we're taking minus 1, we're taking 1.5. All right, so this means this will still be what's negative. Now, here we have what? We can take 2.5. If you take 2.5, here is positive, surely. 2.5 minus 2 is positive, so here is going to be positive. So here is still positive. Then we can take 4. This is positive. This will be positive, and everything will still be positive. So what is the solution? The solution will be what? We're interested in greater than 0 only, so we take the positive part. So you have minus infinity to 0, but open. Then union, we need to take, this is also positive, so this will be 2 open to 3. Then union 3 to infinity. Now, we know that we have positive, positive here, but it will be wrong if we just take 2 to what? 2 to infinity here. This is not good. Why? Because in this interval, we have 3 is included, but here 3 is open. Remember, we don't have equals to 0, so 3 remains open. So it means that here we have to write this interval, we have to split this interval into 2. So it will be 2 to 3, union 3 to what? This is the solution. All right, so I hope everything is clear. If you have a question, you kindly put it in the comment section. And if you are new to my channel or you have not subscribed, kindly do that, and also share with your friends to enjoy these tutorial. Thank you for watching.